Hey, 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 it's me, Santa Shaggy from Santa Shaggy and the Christmas Crew. And wait a second, can we please start this over again? Bear with me. I want to start this in a special way. Okay? Three, two, well, hello, boys and girls. How are you today? And welcome to Santa Shaggy and the Christmas Crew. Oh, there's a special reason why I wanted to start it off that way. Oh, as many of you guys know, if you've been paying attention to the page today is a special day. Right here at Crewland. Today is Henry Harvey Day. And I know some of you guys might not know who he is, not unless you grew up in the Wichita, Kansas area in the last 50 years or so. And some of you younger generations probably might not know who he is either. So I'm going to give you a brief history of the man and why we celebrate today as Henry Harvey Day. But to start it all off, we have to go back to the very beginning. On March 2nd, 1925, the world was introduced to Henry Harvey, Henry A. Harvey. Oh, and little did the world know what they were really getting into. Oh, yeah. But he grew up, and in 1946 he started college after a brief stint in the military, where he majored in communications, I believe. I think it was communications. Anyway, and at the same time he started a 10-year radio career with a local radio station called KFDI, where he was first worked in sports and then he worked up to a major anchor and whatnot, personality. And that, like I said, it lasted for 10 years. But in 1957, he started a 38-year-long career that started at a radio, or he stepped from behind the radio and into the spotlight of the TV camera. That's right. He went from radio to television when he got his first job at KTV, which is a local TV station in Wichita. There he started, at the time there was no cable, so a lot of the local broadcasters would do their own TV shows for kids, and where a TV personality like a sportscaster or a weatherman would don on a character and become a character and do cartoons and stuff for the kids. That is what Mr. Harvey did. He became a character known as Freddie Fudd, and he had a show called Freddie Fudd's Treehouse, I believe is what it was called. It was a little bit before my time. I vaguely remember it when I was really, really, really little. But he would do all kinds of silly stuff. He was Freddie Fudd, the nephew of Elmer Fudd from the Bugs Bunny cartoons. And they would have all kinds of antics of how he was going to catch that wascally wabbit. And he showed cartoons of Bugs Bunny or the Merry Melodies or whatnot, and a bunch of Warner Brothers cartoons. And it was silly fun. But the reason why we celebrate him on here, and the character that he was most known for the longest time, he'd take 1 month a year between Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. He donned a different suit. He was no longer Freddie Fudd. He donned a suit of a different color, you might say. He became Santa Claus. And he started off with Cake TV. Like I said, he was working for Cake TV, and he had a sidekick known as Cake Man. And they would banter back and forth, and they would tell how many days there were until Christmas, and they would sing, which Mr. Harvey was known for having a beautiful voice. He also sang at funerals and weddings and different events around town. But they would banter back and forth, and they would count down the days till Christmas, and kids would eagerly wait, anticipating the time that his show would come on, and I was one of them. In 1975, I believe, or 76, he switched from Cake TV to another station, which at the time was called KTVH, which later became KWCH, Channel 12, in the Wichita area. And they carried on the tradition of Santa's Workshop, which was what it was called. Unfortunately, Cake Man had to change his name and his look a little bit because Cake TV was the owner of Cake Man. Or Cake Man was representative of Cake TV. So he became Toy Boy, which that's who I really remember the most, because that's when I grew up. In that area, in that time frame. But yeah, they do the same silly stuff. They'd have other characters come on, like Enzo Facto and Mortimer Moose and um, Susie Snowflake and different characters over the years. But they would always, the end of the season, they would always have a moral. They always had a moral lesson, and he always, at some point in the last week before Christmas, and usually it was on Christmas Eve, he would read from the Bible the first Christmas, which is what Christmas is all about to begin with. Let's be honest. But yeah, he carried on that tradition up until his passing, unfortunately, in 1993. He worked on some other projects, and he was actually in negotiations for a project that him and a director that he had been working with or partnered with was actually getting ready to start a new project when they got word that he had passed. He had already planned for the next couple seasons of Santa's Workshop, and the world it was a sad day in 1993 on November 2nd. The reason why we celebrate Henry Harvey on this day. In 1993, he had passed away at the age of 68, and it was a very sad day. It's still hard to believe. One of the projects that he did work on, or did finish before he passed, in 1989, with the same director or producer, he came out with a DVD that has sold over 5,000 copies, and that is Santa Claus and the True Meaning of Christmas. And if you look right there, there is Mr. Harvey himself. And then on the back, it also shows Toy Boy and Santa Claus. But it's basically a visit to Santa's Workshop, and he basically reads the story of the true meaning of Christmas. It's not a very long DVD. If you can get a copy of it, or if you can check out a copy of it, I highly recommend it. It's really good. It's not quite like the TV show, but it's still pretty good. But yeah. On a more personal note, I can honestly say that I actually got a chance to meet Henry Harvey on many occasions. Growing up, I grew up close to where he lived, and we both shopped at the same grocery store. My family did, and he did. And we would run into each other at a local Dillon's all the time. And I learned early on that you do not call him by his character name. I was told not to call him Elmer or Freddie Fudd when I was real little, because when he was out of character, he was not a character. He was Mr. Harvey. But he was a really gentle soul, a very, very nice guy. I do not have a harsh word to say about him. I also heard that the other way around. If he was in his Freddie Fudd or Santa Claus, you were not to call him Mr. Harvey. He was a character actor, he never broke character. But yeah, I so many times I would run into him at Dillon's, and he'd say hi, and I'd say hi, and he'd ask how I was doing, and I'd tell him, and I'd ask how he was doing, and this is coming when I was real little. So, but I'll never forget the last time I actually saw him. It was one of the last parades he did. I was walking home, and I walked by the parking lot where they parked the float and waited for the entourage to come pick him up and put him in the SUV and take him to his next destination. And I just happened to be walking by when he was coming off the float, and he stopped in the middle of all the commotion, and he looked at me, and he said hi, and waved at me, and smiled, and wished me a Merry Christmas. And I smiled and waved back, and little did I know that was the last time I would see him alive. It's tough thinking back, but it also makes me smile because he was that kind of a person. He was to many Santa Claus while we were growing up, or at least the incarnation that we saw on a daily basis. He was an amazing man, and that's primarily why we celebrate today as Henry Harvey Day, and we plan on doing it from now on. I mean, not from now on. We started it back on the 20th anniversary of his passing, and we hope to continue. But yeah, that's a brief history and why we love Henry Harvey so much. And for those who may not have known him, you can also look up if you guys want to know more, you can look him up as Henry A. Harvey from Wichita, or look up Santa's Workshop, and you can see some of the videos. I hope to post a couple more today. If not, you can find them on YouTube. And but yeah, that's our story about why we celebrate. And I want to end this. I don't want to end it the way Santa Shaggy would end it. I want to end it the way Santa Claus would. And I want to say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.